So in that moment, when I have that horrific thought, I decide that because I'm in this spot, that I'm going to do something I never did. And I'm going to look back over what was at that point a 15 or 16 year career and document our story. And I immediately come up with the name One Rental at a Time, because that's what we did. So what I start doing is I start writing a PDF or a Word document, going all the way back to the beginning. And ultimately that exercise, it starts to feel better because I'm writing 90 minutes a day. I'm contributing. I'm doing something that I think is positive. That ultimately becomes a best-selling book on Amazon, now on Audible. And that leads to YouTube. And I did 1,000 videos on YouTube before I was monetized, because the money wasn't important to me. The money still isn't important to me. It's contributing. It's chasing positive impact.
Welcome back to the show, Disruptors. I'm your host, Aaron Hale. This is Point of Impact. And I'm going to take the KISS approach today. Keep it simple. Keeping it simple is one thing today's guest does very well. And just like Jim Rohn once said, success is nothing but a few basic disciplines practiced every day. Michael Zuber is a real estate investor, author, podcast host, teacher, educator, coach, and mastermind. He's got his own mastermind, each with the same simple message. He found his success, his financial freedom, one rental at a time. So we'll get right to it in just a moment. But before we do, please do me and your fellow guests, the guests and fellow listeners, a favor. Do the liking, the subscribing, commenting, and sharing. That's how we let our guests know that their time and their experience shared with us was appreciated. Also, a little admin note. The Disruptor Nation now has a Facebook group. That podcast, Point of Impact, is now got a place where all of you can congregate. You can meet each other, connect, ask questions, give answers, lift each other up, and we can all help each other get unstuck from those challenges that are holding us back from finding our success, our fulfillment. You can also help me with the show. Give me some pointers. Tell me what you like, what you don't like, and how about even suggestions for the future episodes, guests I should have on. It's your place to have a voice and meet other disruptors. That's Facebook groups, Disruptor Nation. And with that, without further ado, my conversation with Michael Zuber right now. Michael, welcome to the Point of Impact. I'm so glad to have you here.
Excellent. Thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to this.
I was looking forward to it myself. In fact, it was really weird. It was kind of strange. I was just woke up this morning and I was, absentmindedly flipped on podcast as I was doing my morning routine, and it was the wealthy investor, and I heard you. You started talking. I'm like, wait a second, what's going on here? I thought I was listening to Brian Davala, and we're talking with you. I'm like, wait a second, this is mind warp. I'm supposed to be talking to you, and I'm listening. This is not the right podcast. This is, anyways. It threw me for a loop. But it was a great interview. I listened to that too. And anyways, you have you're the author and host of One Rental at a Time, and just to help me, because there's a complex concept here. What you mean by one rental at a time?
Yeah, for me. So for me, one rental at a time is kind of the secret, right? Unlike Brian Davila, great guy, Ryan Pineda, that whole team at Wealthy Investor, I'm not an entrepreneur, right? I look at myself as an employee. So my job was to figure out how I could secure a better retirement, because that was when I started this thing in 2001. That's all I was thinking about, Aaron, was how could I have a better retirement than my parents, right, at 65. I was willing to work until I was 65. And, all I knew is that I couldn't do the stock market. I'd gotten burned in the stock market by a couple of frauds, Enron, in WorldCom, lost 80% of my
Ouch.
wealth seemingly overnight. And, real estate was the answer. So my goal, my big goal, my massive goal, my uncomfortable goal was to get to 4 rental properties. That's all I wanted. And the only way I knew how to do it was that one at a time. Could I get, 1 a year for 4 years, for example?
Mm-hmm.
Important is it's a secret unlock for a lot of people. Social media plays on big, fast, massive. But I don't think getting wealthy is a get rich quick game. I think it takes a minimum of 10 years. I think inflation's a feature, not a bug. So I was willing, to live below my means, stack disposable income, learn a market, which, oh, by the way, I never lived in. It's almost 3 hours away, and buy one asset a year for 4 years. And, we started in 2001 and that was the beginning. So I think one rental at a time at its core is patient capital. It's permission to go at a speed that you're comfortable with. It is certainly not sexy, but also you won't bust out, right? You won't have spectacular flameouts and bankruptcies and things of that nature. So one rental at a time for me is built for employees to have a better future.
Well, that's the thing that's been nagging at me, and you and Brian talked about this. In the back of my head, this the latest fad, and it's been going on for years, is the whole FIRE, financial independent, retire early, and Cody Sanchez and Hermosi, and everybody's got to be an entrepreneur, business owner, buy all these companies in real estate and I don't know, Bitcoin and everything, and get rich, and then you can go live in Morocco or something for the other 40, 60 years of your life or whatever. And like you said, not everybody is. You're an employee, and you're wired a little bit differently than Cody and Sanchez and Hermosi. And that was the same thing for me, is that, well, you were kind of in a place where, you reached that goal, right? And then you needed something to do. You were just wired that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth in that. So there's really 3 things on that. So first, let's go to the FIRE movement. You brought that up. It's really funny. While I was working, I had never heard of the FIRE movement, right? Financial independence, retire early. But in 2018, I do it. I retire at 45, which is 20 years earlier than I thought was ever possible. So I start poking around and I find the FIRE movement and I start interacting with folks in the FIRE community. And most of them were rude. Frankly, they look at real estate investors as not part of the FIRE movement, right? Near as I can tell, the FIRE movement has to mean living on ramen noodles, biking to work, and investing in the stock market, right? Near as I could tell, right? Real estate's not an option. So I'm not a huge fan of the messaging. I was mistreated repeatedly by multiple different folks in that community. So let's just say not a fan. Number 2, business owners, Alex Hermosi, Cody Sanchez, you could throw in Gary V in there if you wanted to. I took this from Ed Milet, right? Ed Milet said in one of his interviews that only 9%, so heck, let's round it to 10. Only 10% of the population are naturally born entrepreneurs. Well, the opposite of that is 90% of us are employees. And I could not imagine, Aaron, something more stressful than having to meet payroll, right? But some people are wired that way. Alex Hermosi, Cody Sanchez, Gary V, they live in that soup, that fire, that just energy, and good for them. We need people like that. We need small businesses, but to act like everybody needs to be an entrepreneur is disingenuous and wrong. There is nothing wrong with being an employee. If you are, so this is what I tell people all the time. What's the difference between an entrepreneur and employee? In my mind, you both can earn financial freedom. I believe an employee who lives below their mean, becomes an elite investor at something like single family homes, can get there in 10 years. I believe it is the far more certain path. However, if you are an entrepreneur and you do it and it works, your upside is much, much higher. Cody Sanchez, Alex Hormozi, Gary Vee will be 10, 100, maybe 1,000 times richer than me. But again, not everybody is them. Not everybody makes it up that mountain. So I'm comfortable with my asset of choice. I'm comfortable being laser focused. It's the right thing for me.
Did you get your 4 units?
Oh, I did. Yeah, we got to 4 units in about 2 years. Over the next 2 years, we actually got to 8. So in about 3.5 years, we got to 8. And if you read my book, One Rental at a Time, or listen to it, you will realize that it was right before the Great Recession. So I went to a live event with a gentleman named Bruce Norris, who said this phrase to me: California crash. And again, I'm a California investor. I'm also a California investor who just got wrecked in the stock market. So having somebody tell me I'm about to get wrecked for a second time was not fun or pleasant. So what I did is I went out and researched this guy, Bruce Norris. He's a legend. He's been right, more times than most people. And I believed him. I think he was right. So what did we do, Aaron? We sold all our houses and we 1031 into multifamily. So we went from 8 to 80 units in about 9 months. And we got out right at the peak. We sold the last house right at the peak of the market. So yeah, we did okay.
Yeah, you're in the Bay Area, right?
So I live in the Silicon Valley, but I invest in the Central Valley. It's about 3 hours away.
Well, how did you do that? Were you driving the whole time? You were self-managing? How did you find these properties?
So never self-managed. Yeah, never self-managed. Great question. We've had a property manager since day one, in only one unit. We did fire the first 5 property managers because they didn't serve us, or they stole, or they lied, or some kind of lack of performance. So not very good at finding property managers, but got pretty good at firing them. But the real question is, how did we find them? So kind of 2 steps. First, like a lot of people, I looked in my backyard. I tried to find cash flow in the Bay Area. It didn't exist in 2020 or in 2001. It doesn't exist today. So we had a choice. We could go out of state, or we could look local but farther away. So one of my fears is flying. I hate to fly. So out of state was not an option for me. And so we pulled out a California map. We started drawing circles, and Fresno, California popped up 2.5 hours away. So what did we do? Well, for about 3 months or so, we drove to Fresno 3 weekends out of a month. So 3 out of the 4. We started meeting people, asking where we should invest. After interviewing, 30, 40, 50 people, we got focused on in an area called the Mayfair District, 93703. And then I just went to work, Aaron. I got a buy box, 3 or 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2-car garage, single story, between 1,200 and 2,000 square feet. And that's all I looked at, Aaron, for 3 years. If it was in that buy box, I saw it. If it wasn't, I didn't see it. I didn't get distracted. One of my superpower is focus and daily discipline. I didn't understand that until after I retired. But yeah, I looked at that one buy box for 3 years. We bought a bunch of houses in that. And then, we pivoted to multifamily when Bruce Norris said the crash was coming.
Just a glossary term definition, buy box. Can you explain that for me?
Yeah, buy box is something that I run with. I talk about all the time. I think it's the secret to our success. Buy box is permission to look and permission to ignore. A buy box is a set of criteria that produces somewhere between 20 and 40 active listings. Again, if I didn't say it earlier, I should have. I only ever bought out of the MLS. I didn't do mailers, door knocking, instant messages, none of that stuff. It was on the MLS. I saw it. If it wasn't, I didn't. So a buy box is a set of criteria. You put in realtor.com, Redfin, Zillow, save, and then look at. So again,
you were looking for turnkey?
I would look at anything that was 93703, single family home, 3 or 4 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage, 1,200 to 2,000 square feet. That was it. That is all I looked at. Turnkey, burnt to the ground. If it had that criteria, I would look at it. And then I would put those numbers into a spreadsheet. I would calculate yield, and I would buy the best deal. In the beginning, turnkey was the best. By the end, fixers became the best.
What was the philosophy there? Because I know, were you doing long-term rentals?
Yeah, always.
Yeah. So, I mean, California, and I know a lot of people have very mixed emotions about California.
Sure.
So what was the philosophy there? Were you were looking for cash flow? I had
Always
4 doors. In the
4
beginning.
single family homes. That was my goal, Aaron. Just 4 little single family homes. And just to give context, because a lot of people think California is expensive. The first house we bought on Norris Drive was $107,000. It rented for $1,100.
Wow. So better than 1%.
Yeah, it was.
Okay. So, you heard crash was coming. You divested of the single family, went into the apartment buildings, and the crash came. Of course, I know. I mean, I started my real estate investing journey just about the same time.
Okay.
I bought in 2007 a fix and flip in Newport, Rhode Island, way outside my price range or ability, and I was staying right on top of that bubble. It took me it took me 12 years to lick my wounds and get back into it. But I was in the military at the time, and they were just giving money away.
They were.
Yeah, mortgage banks and all that. So I took a different route, and it was a dead end. But okay, so you divested yourself of the single families. You changed your buy box. What happened from there?
Well, again, so we're sitting at, so this is probably, I don't know, I would call it 2008 by the time we sold our last house, got our 80th unit. And lo and behold, Bruce Norris was right. The crash came. We started to see more and more short sales in single families. Just to give context, so that first house we bought for 107, we sold or exchanged at 263, like 3 years later. It ultimately goes all the way to 300. So we sold a little early, but better to be early than late. So it goes all the way to 300. That same house, you can go look it up on Zillow, ultimately gets foreclosed and retrades at $75,000. 300 to 75. So I was in the soup, right? The market fell 75%. But again, we were in multifamily, so we missed a lot of that. But what happened is as I wrote in my book, we took about 6 months off just to wow, this is scary. What the hell is going on? Right? More and more foreclosures, all these things going off that I had never seen before. However, one of the things, I do a lot is read. So I read a lot about the early 80s, the savings and loan crisis. I read about Sam Zell and a lot of the legendary investors who became billionaires. And the one theme that they all said, Aaron, was they wished they bought more in the crisis. I mean, I read that 100 times in 100 different stories. And I knew with certainty when Norris Drive, which was worth 300, started to be worth less than 200 and then less than 150, that this was going to be our crisis, our opportunity. So we started buying single families again. Right. And I didn't know where the bottom was. The first one we bought was at $150,000, then 125, then 100, then 80, then 70. The last single family home we bought was $28,000. We bought a single family home for $28,000
in California.
In California, in Fresno, $28,000. We still own it to this day. And how did we do it? Well, I just chose to document our story. So YouTube wasn't a thing at the time. I don't think it existed. If it did, it was very small. But I created a website called wealthbuildingpro.com just to document our story. Mm-hmm. So I started documenting all the foreclosures and fixes that we were doing. And we were doing 1 or 2 a year, maybe 3. And what happened after we wrote 3 or 4 stories is my friends, my buddies, right, who worked with me started saying, "Hey, I see what you're doing, Zuber. I got all my money in the savings account. I'm not earning anything. You want to borrow some?" So we started borrowing money from friends and we paid 10% interest. So what we did in that case is we borrowed the purchase price, 100% purchase price at 10%. And Olivia, my wife, and I funded the repairs. And then we would go in and refi the debt once it was repaired. So we were doing BRRRR before it was a thing. And that allowed us to just go crazy, right? We went from doing, 2, 3, 4 a year to, 2 a quarter. Mm-hmm. And we did that for year after year after year, probably 4 years. We just started accelerating acquisitions because we had millions of dollars in private capital available at 10% interest. And we just kept recycling that money over and over as fast as we could.
Yeah, it's just funny about was it Brandon Turner who gave it a name? But
yep.
Yeah, before then it was what are you doing? I'm doing fix and flip, but I forget to sell.
Fix, flip, and keep. Yeah, we flipped the financing. I forget the flip. Basically, what we did. Yeah, we flipped the financing.
Right. So that's kind of what my wife and I got into, but we call it Burster because we're
Burster. I like that.
The BRRRR model to short-term rentals, and we like putting them into the DSCR loans. Mm-hmm. So sure. It's an excellent model for us. Great cash flow, and throughout all of this, you keep coming back to this. I'm an employee mindset, but you've gone well beyond that. Those first 4 units, and I'm thinking back to Kiyosaki and Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I know it's the I don't know what it's like pulling back the curtain between a consumer and an investor, but then also the cash flow quadrant.
Yeah,
and these different mindsets and different ways of from a wage earner to a salary earner to or professional to business or investor and business owner.
Right.
But I think we can straddle these lines. So you can be an employee.
Yeah, it's really funny you bring up Cash Flow Quadrant because that's an unsung book, in my opinion. A lot of people talk Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I give, frankly, Rich Dad, Poor Dad credit because it was the unlock to a whole new world for me. But Cash Flow Quadrant is really important because and everybody reads these books and takes different things from it. But from my perspective, what I took from it was there are these different quadrants, right? Employee, small business, big business, investor. But when I read that book, right, the goal is to know thyself, right? Who are you, right? Are you an employee? Are you a small professional, big business, or investor? But it always seemed to me, Aaron, that people wanted to end up in the investor quadrant. So some people read this book like I have to be an employee, then I have to start a business like Cody Sanchez or Alex, and then I've got to make it big like Gary Vee, and then I become an investor. I'm like, screw that. I'm going to do what I do really well, being an employee. I'm going to make as much money as I possibly can. I'm going to save as much as I can. And then I'm going to go become an elite investor at a single asset type. And it was that maniacal focus and lack of distractions that worked, right? I didn't get distracted by all these shiny objects that Cody talks about and Alex and Gary Vee talk about. I'm like, hey, good for you. You guys are amazing. You're changing lives, but that's not for me. I would fundamentally blow up if I had to think about payroll and accounts receivable, accounts payables. It would scare the bejesus out of me. But you know what? I can be an employee and I can be an investor. And I was comfortable with that.
After these messages, we'll be right back. I'd like to thank the sponsor of this episode, Extraordinary Delights, EODFudge.com. Extraordinary Delights is a disabled veteran, family-owned small business making handcrafted fudge and other sweet treats for the chocolate-loving patriots just like you. Go to EODFudge.com and check out some of our delicious flavors like triple threat chocolate with or without walnuts, mint dark chocolate, strawberry and creamy white chocolate, or my personal favorite, American Pick-Me-Up, an all-American version of tiramisu. While you're there, go to the apparel store and check out our awesome t-shirts, polos, and the baddest tactical apron on the market. You see me wear on the TikTok show, Aaron Hale's Cooking Without Looking. So, right now, go over to EODFudge.com and pick out some fudge, other sweet treats for that patriot in your life with a sweet tooth. That's EODFudge.com. EODFudge.com. And now, back to the show. At what point did the one rental time happen? I think you've told the story in the past where you reached a point where you didn't have anything else to do.
Yeah, it's really wild. Yeah, it's wild. So again, my story goes to kind of set it up for folks is I always imagined working till I was 50. I loved my job. I was really good at it. My ego was wrapped up in it. Unfortunately, at 45, some events happened where that wasn't possible. So I, left my job and I drive home and I tell my wife, Olivia, I'm coming home. She doesn't believe me because I left for work excited and I come in back like 90 minutes later, not excited. And I realize, okay, I'm retired. We don't need the money. Let's see what this is all about. And for a couple of days, Aaron, I was excited. I was smiling. My face hurt. I was smiling so much. But then it got dark. And it got dark relatively quickly because I still get up at 5 a.m., 5:30 every morning. Don't have an alarm clock. I just wake up. I'm a morning person. And there's nothing to do. You're not chasing anything. You're not contributing. You're watching TV. You're going for a walk. You're not feeding your ego. So the dark days continue. I continually get more and more depressed. Olivia sees this, thankfully. So she sends us on a family vacation or family trip to Taiwan, where she's from. We spend a couple of 2-3 weeks there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm seeing family. I'm seeing friends. I'm getting these great experiences, but I'm not happy. I'm not contributing. So we come home even darker, and I'm sitting at our kitchen table one morning. I remember it. It was a Friday morning, and I'm like, I have to get a job or I'm going to kill myself, right? That's a pretty dark thought because I'm not contributing. So in that moment, when I have that horrific thought, I decide that because I'm in this spot, that I'm going to do something I never did. And I'm going to look back over what was at that point a 15 or 16 year career and document our story. And I immediately come up with the name One Rental at a Time because that's what we did. So what I start doing is I start writing a PDF or a Word document, going all the way back to the beginning. And ultimately that exercise, it starts to feel better because I'm writing 90 minutes a day. I'm contributing. I'm doing something that I think is positive. That ultimately becomes a best-selling book on Amazon, now on Audible. And that leads to YouTube. And I did 1,000 videos on YouTube before I was monetized because the money wasn't important to me. The money still isn't important to me. It's contributing. It's chasing positive impact. And, to this day, I'm, 14,000 videos. I do 3 or 4 videos a day, 7 days a week. I only work like 10 or 12 hours a week, but it's enough for me to feel positive, like I'm contributing. And the beauty of this is One Rental at a Time is now bigger than just me. We have a school community. We've written a second book. We do live events. We do one live event a year in Vegas. And it's just fun to see all the positive impact. My goal since video number 1 was to create some kind of legacy that outlived me by 50 years, right? I believe that every human being dies twice. They die once with their physical body, and then they die a second time the last time somebody says their name. So I'm not messing around, Aaron. I'm trying to play for 50 years after my physical body. I want people 50 years after I'm dead and gone to say nice things about Michael Zuber. So that still excites me 6 years later, 7 years later. So yeah, it's wild to think about starting from a depression to I wake up every day excited.
So much there. I mean, I had a similar, I don't know, catalyst moment where I literally got blown up and found myself in a different life situation. And it was, for me, it was fear, as I still had, I would have the government check my military disability pension from after my injury and military, medical retirement. But in the last few decades, and I don't think this is a new thing, but the government is full of idiots. And
no, you don't say.
So I was afraid that of being dependent on a government check, just as many people, like one of the worst things I may cringe at hearing is when you've got a W-2 job and you say just that alone is security. Having
Amen.
Having that regular salary job is security without having the investments or other streams of income. So I found myself in, a whole nother life, and I wanted to contribute as well. And that's what I was thinking about to, I think it was Tony Robbins and the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. And one of the most fulfilling things for me, I've found throughout my life, and I had to piece it together, reverse engineer it. When was I most happy? And it was when I was of service to others or another cause. I was teaching, I was a first responder on the battlefield, that kind of thing. And now I paired the real estate and finding my way after injury, after service, and fulfilling. It's fulfilling to teach others. So I totally understand, one, the real estate and the aversion to actually being a business owner or an entrepreneur, and managing the human resources part, all of that.
Couldn't imagine.
Not me.
Not me, man. Not me.
I'd be glad to do. I'm more a fan of the deal hunting, the putting the pieces of the puzzle together when it comes to making a deal, and networking, that kind of thing. But
yeah, know thyself. That's a big thing. I think Pace Morby talks about that a lot. You got to know thyself. Don't see something online that you think is cool, fun, exciting, that you want to chase. That's really not who you are. That's a recipe for disaster. Know thyself.
Yeah. So what, speaking of knowing yourself, what's most exciting to you? What are you working on right now? What's on the horizon?
Yeah. So right now, the most exciting things for me are, so something I do with my community is I recognize them when they close a deal. So I actually have 3 different colors of cards. So I have a purple card that I send out when anybody is stuck, right? Analysis paralysis, and they write their first offer. Because a lot of people get excited about real estate investing. They do the work, they show up at events, they watch our podcasts, but they never write an offer. Mm-hmm. So what I'm telling people to do, because I think we're in a buyer's market, is write a disrespectful offer. If you are scared about writing an offer, I implore you to write your first offer at 50% off. Now I know that's not going to go anywhere in most cases, but it's going to prove that you won't die. Right. And for some people, that's a big deal, right? Writing that first offer unlocks knowing that, oh, well, I got told no, but I didn't die. Nobody laughed at me. Okay, let's do that again. So I have a purple card. I don't send out a lot of those, but anybody who needs one, happy to send them. Then I have these black cards. Black cards are for anybody that closes a deal, their second deal on. And there are people out there that has 10, 15, 20 of these black cards. And those are a lot of fun to see. But the most fun I get is when I send out my gold cards, which I called my golden tickets. These are for the people that close their first deal. You can only ever get one golden ticket. And, I love sending these out. So I'm sending out somewhere between 5 and 10 cards a week. And I get a kick every time I fill it out, put in the address. I hear the story of the deal. It just proves to me it's working. And then the second thing is we're doing our second in-person event in Vegas, February 15th and 16th. The first one was a blast. 350 people or so in the room. We're going to do it again. It's one thing to meet online, like with Riverside or Zoom or whatever technology you choose to use, but getting in person in real life, meeting the people that you interact with, asking questions, seeing the 10, 15 millionaires that I bring on every week. It's just so much fun. So I'm having fun every day, Aaron. It's still wild to do.
It sounds like a great time. And
it is.
I'm sure it's full of energy. Does the golden ticket come with a chocolate bar?
No, it doesn't, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm a chocolate guy. We have a fudge company. So just it got me thinking. Now I'm hungry. But
sorry about that.
I'm always craving for being a runner. I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg thing, but that also you mentioned Las Vegas, and you did move, right?
I did.
You moved there, and did you did like a project or something, starting from scratch.
Yep.
How, did you use the same criteria, the same buy box, or did you change your buy box? What was the process like?
Yeah, so we did a 6-part series called Buying Vegas, and I assumed nothing. So just like the beginning in Fresno, I didn't know anybody. So I went around and interviewed lots of different agents, basically trying to figure out, hey, what should I buy? Mm-hmm. Should I buy long-term buy and hold? Should I do midterm rentals? Should I do short-term rentals? Should I do condo hotels? Should I do casitas or ADUs? Should I do multifamily? So the first 6-part series was like, how do I create a buy box? So that was what Buying Vegas was. So at the end of Buying Vegas, my buy box is I'm going to buy in Henderson, single family home, non-HOA, and configured on the lot where I can add an ADU. Because unlike Fresno when I started, which was relatively easy to get cash flow, finding cash flow in Vegas is really, really, really hard. So I'm going to have to find a fixer house on the right lot that I can add an ADU. So how it's going to work is the main house will likely be break even, best case. But by adding an ADU with a company called Picasa Homes, which I interviewed in the series Buying Vegas, I'll be able to add an ADU for 90 to 110 grand, depending on the configuration. And that will cash flow. So the series that I created was about establishing or finding a buy box. I now have one, and I'm now doing the work. I'm now writing offers. I'm now following up. I'm now doing everything I say. I'm hopeful that I find a deal at the end of the year because we are in a buyer's market. But Vegas is tough. But I'm trying almost every day. So we'll see what happens.
That's actually a really great idea for somebody who's looking at the MLS or off-market deals and it just doesn't pencil. Looking for some other way besides just fixing the current structure up as a fixer-upper is finding a way to expand, or
Yeah.
expand the living area, like finishing a basement, or
Yeah.
going up, going out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
All are great options.
we've done finished attics, and gone up on garages, that kind of thing. Doing an apartment above it.
Great advice.
So that's it's a great way, especially in some areas where we try to stay out of HOAs, but mother-in-laws are
non-HOA
okay.
is a big part.
Okay, so when is this next event in Las Vegas?
It's President's Day weekend. It will always be President's Day weekend because, again, a lot of my audience are at work, right? They have day jobs. And President's Day weekend, we go Saturday, Sunday, which allows people to travel on Monday, right? Monday's a holiday. So I think it feels like the right idea. So it allows people to fly in Friday, allows them to go to an event. And my events are very different. Like Saturday's 12 hours. We go 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And every talk, half is a presentation or a discussion on a topic that I agree with. And then students or, people in the event can line up in a microphone and ask questions, right? This is not everybody, death by PowerPoint. This is, hey, you have a question for one of Mike Zuber's speakers, line up and ask them, right?
I love that.
And then we feed people too. So we have 2 hours of lunch, 2 hours of dinner on day one. That's why it goes to 8 p.m. because, again, I'm feeding people. And then we do a 2-hour lunch on Sunday, and then we're out by 5 or 6 o'clock. So, very different than most events. No selling. Nobody's selling you courses or mentoring. It's all giving, just like my channel. It's all giving. We did it last year. I didn't even sell any books, and people were pissed off. So maybe this year I'll have a few books that people can buy, but that'll be it. Nobody's selling anything.
Well, you had me at food. Like I said, I'm an eater.
Yeah, you got 6 hours, man.
Awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, that sounds great. I think that's a perfect place to transition into the final segment, which is the countdown to impact. This is 3 books, 2 quotes, and 1 person who have all made an impact in your life.
Okay. So you're going to have to remind me. Short-term memory is not great for me. So the first is 3 books.
3 books.
So the first book, I'll talk about Extreme Ownership. Extreme Ownership was written by a Navy SEAL, Jocko Willink, and someone. I believe there was 2 contributors, but I only remember Jocko. Forgive me if the other person don't hurt me. That was important to me because, again, I see a lot of people in today's community or world, frankly, that want to blame others.
Mm-hmm.
That by blaming others, you give away your power. There is something impactful in saying everything is your fault, because then you could learn from it. You could move forward. So Extreme Ownership, number 1. Number 2, You Can't Hurt Me. David Goggins' first book, Can't Hurt Me. Again, some horrific stories in that book in the beginning, but it really gets to a mindset of keep moving forward, keep doing the work, stop, whining, complaining. It's hard for everyone. That's important. And then to go over to a real estate book, Gary Keller, I believe his name is, wrote a blue and white book, I think called Millionaire Real Estate Investor, or maybe it's Real Estate Millionaire, something like it's blue and white. And while that book is excellent, written really well, what was most important for me is at the end of that book, he highlights like 15 investors who did it. And they're not long. They're like a page and a half. But I will admit to, in reading those stories, an ungodly amount of times, because the first 5 years of real estate investing is hard. You don't know if it's working, and you just need to know it's gonna work. And frankly, Gary Keller inspired me to write my second book, 15 Conversations with Real Estate Millionaires. So instead of giving you a page and a half, in my second book, I give you 10, 12, 15 pages of 15 unique stories. So Gary actually inspired my second book. But yeah, those are the 3 books. Next is 2 quotes.
2 quotes or lessons learned.
2 quotes. So there's a saying that's often misquoted: buy when there's blood in the streets. What people don't realize is that quote continues. It's buy when there's blood in the street even if some of it's yours, right? Because again, buyers markets are where wealth is really made. And we're certainly in residential in a buyer's market. I think commercial real estate is about to have some real pain coming. Some of you are going to get hurt. You're going to have some of the blood, but you're going to have tremendous buying opportunities. And then the next one is, I don't know who said it. If I did, I'd give them credit. But time in the market is better than timing the market. Those are really important.
Very good ones. I like it.
And then the last one was what person? I'll shout out Sam Zell, right? Rest in peace. Sam Zell wrote a book, Am I Being Subtle? You know, Sam Zell is a very colorful creature. Don't listen with kids around, because he will drop the F-bombs regularly. But Sam Zell is amazing because, especially for today, he built his wealth during the savings and loan crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And what people don't realize is he got out at the ultimate peak. He sold his empire, his crown jewel, to Blackstone almost exactly at the peak of the market. So if there's somebody who got in at the bottom and got out at the top, I want to learn from them. And unfortunately, we lost the legend, I think, last year. But thankfully, because of video and YouTube and all of that, we can go back and listen to him. I still listen to Sam Zell on occasion. So I'll give him some respect. Rest in peace.
He was very creative getting started.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate that. We're going to put all of that in the show notes. And also, speaking of show notes, if others want to get a hold of you, find out more, buy your book, or get some coaching, some training, everything else, where would they get a hold of you?
One of the few good things I've done in life is everything I do is called one rental at a time. Website, YouTube channel, books, go to Eventbrite, go to school. Everything I have is one rental at a time. Shouldn't be hard to find.
Is enough. We'll put that in the show notes as well. Well, Michael, thank you so much. You've definitely added some value and sort of the Disruptor Nation today. So I appreciate that. To everybody listening, thank you very much. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share with others. Send the link in a text to a couple of your friends who you think would stand a benefit from meeting Michael Zuber. Michael, one more time, thank you very much.
Thank you.